legends within Indian cinema, spanning 7 languages. While the world has seen him as a prolific actor, there is another side to him that only a few know. As the chief patron for the Cancer Patients Aid Association, he has supported over 250,000 underprivileged children fight cancer over the last 2 decades. Through Project Devi, he has rescued over 14,000 girls from child labor and abuse. Serves as a goodwill ambassador for the World Health Organization and many other global initiatives fostering peace and harmony among youth. He has been instrumental in the 2004 post-tsunami relief efforts, rebuilding 3 villages and donating more than 650 family homes, a school and a primary healthcare center for affected villagers. His commitment to social causes extends to empowering tribal children and women in more than 100,000 villages in India with education, telemedicine, numerous companies, guiding many to successful IPOs. Presenting the actorpreneur and philanthropist, Dr. Vivek Oberoi.
Dr. Vivek Oberoi, ladies and gentlemen, please come on stage and present your second act.
Where would you like me to speak from? Across the whole stage? Lovely. Very good afternoon to all of you. Let me begin by thanking Mr. Barun Das for having me here at this exceptional conference, the News9 Global Summit UAE edition by the TV9 network. I mean, it's a place where everyone wants to be because ideas are exchanged, interesting people connect, and I think it's a world of connections. Discovery happens through these kind of networks that bring good people together. Today, I think for me, the primary reason I'm here is to talk about the second act. Second act is an interesting phrase. We refer to it as something as simple as the second innings, the second act, or something as dramatic as the phoenix rising again. You know, it's all in the head in terms of the emotional context. It's generally something that you look at in terms of a post-failure scenario, when you've had success and then you've had failure and then you try to build towards that success again. I think that's a very myopic view because I don't believe that failure needs to spur a second act. In a world of disruption, as we see technologies disrupting the way we live today, the second act can be an evolution. And I think just like nature has evolution over an elongated period of time, right? We were technically all apes, and now we're human beings sitting here and having a fine discourse. I think evolution in an individual's life needs to be measured with that same pace, sans the drama of what a second act should be. I mean, our friends in the news networks like drama because it does create a good story. Oh my God, look at his journey. This is where he was, and this is what he achieved. But the chiseling of that evolution, that chiseling of that redefining of your own story, is a lot more quiet. It's a lot more inward. It's a lot more spiritual than material. I think that's where it begins from, because the essence of who you are is what defines who you want to be. Where you are is not the end of the journey, it's not the destination. You have the power of choice to define your own journey and take it into that direction. But most often, we're lost in the noise. The noise that tells us where we are, the noise that tells us where we should be, doesn't allow us to listen to our own quiet inner voice. Funnily enough, my name, Vivek, is actually defined as the inner voice, the voice that guides you, your inner compass. And I've been in a situation where in the noise, in the spotlight, in the attention, I lost out on that inner voice. I forgot to listen to my own Vivek. That allowed me to take my own decisions in terms of where I really truly resonate, not someone's borrowed opinion, not someone's guidance, which I can appreciate, but the decision to go there has to be mine. You and I, when we're driving on the streets, Dubai, India, wherever, we have Google Maps on telling us, well, if this is your destination, this is the way to go. And then suddenly you go like, no. I know a better route. I know a shortcut. You take a deviation. Google Maps does its thing. It's a little confused why you're not listening to it. But eventually, you're at that destination faster, quicker, more efficiently. That's that inner voice that I'm talking about, your inner compass that goes beyond technology. But to me, I've penned down a few notes just to share my ideas a little more eloquently, considering the platform. Look, all of us, especially those in front of the camera, we're constantly in the spotlight. And that constant spotlight makes you start believing that you have to put on an act even when the cameras are off on sets. You come out, you're looking around to see if there's somebody taking a picture of you, tuck your tummy in a little bit, put on your best angle so that you look good in that picture, even if it's just a fan trying to take a picture of you. But the degree of that intrusion makes us forget who we really are. How we are when we reach home, kick off our shoes, lie down on the couch, spread all over it, not caring about who's watching us. That person is our true essence. That's who we are, sans mask, sans the makeup, sans the putting on of the image that you're trying to carry. My journey has taught me that when you're trying to craft an image, you're trying to paint on a mirror. When you walk away from that mirror, you realize that's not who you are. That's not your painting. Your painting is you. We forget the canvas is us. We're focusing on a reflection of what we want people to think we are or what people want to think we are. In both cases, it's a zero-sum game because we will never be truly what others want us to be, and others will constantly evolve because they like you this way today. You look at very, very big movie stars that lasted decades. There was a way they spoke, a style they had that drew the audiences to the cinemas, box office collections, houseful audiences. They just loved the way they did a certain act or a certain way of speaking. And then years later, on stages such as this, it became mimicry. People started making fun of that same style that people for decades followed. And they say, oh, we're tired of the same old thing. You have to then redefine yourself. So don't you think it's better in life to start by defining yourself in a way that you're comfortable with who you are? My learnings have been in the process of a second act. And a second act does not, at the cost of repeating myself, need to be spurred from some sort of massive disaster where you're mitigating stuff or you're rewriting your story, the second act can be a lot more quiet. It can be decisive. It can be sharp and incisive. It can be strategic. It doesn't have to be born out of drama. It doesn't have to be announced with drama. Oh, look at me. I'm going to do this now. I think the first step is embrace the silence. Because within the silence, you actually hear your inner voice. What is the purpose of the second act? Is it to make you feel more wholesome as a human being? Where will that wholesomeness come from? Materialistic gains, spiritual evolution, better management of your time, better allocation of time with your family, your children? What is truly important to you? Who are you? In a world of mirrors that we live in, where image is everything, we forget to look at ourselves. We only look at ourselves through the angle of different mirrors. And that is not a true depiction of who we are. So embrace the silence. When you're crafting your second act, there is an excitement. Sometimes it's also a sense of retribution, because you're looking at this second act as your vindication. You're drumming up the drama in your head and saying, I'm going to show them all. I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to prove to everybody. You don't have to prove it to anybody. Because the minute you embrace the silence, you actually focus on the work, on that slow, steady chiseling and sculpting of who you see yourself evolving into. Rush to show people, look what I'm doing. Get it done first. Evaluate it for yourself. Be happy. Remember, you're doing this for yourself first. If you value it and you truly believe you are creating value, the world will value you financially, in terms of respect, in terms of positioning. But that has to be the truth of your journey. Your compass is you. You have to follow that, because in the midst of this visibility, while you're still incomplete with your sculpture, think of yourself as a great artist, making your greatest creation ever, you. And in that process, you rush to show somebody an incomplete sculpture and they have feedback, and that feedback starts to influence you all over again. You're back in the noise. So embrace the silence. It's your best friend. It takes you back to who you really are and keeps your compass to true north, taking you in the direction you want to be in. I think you need to align your actions with your intent first, and then when you're happy, re-enter the conversation. Re-enter the conversation when you're firmly standing your ground of truth. Let your execution do the talking. I have seen this a lot. A lot of people are saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to disrupt that. I'm going to be the first one to do this. I'm going to execute that. As I grow older, and a few of the gray hairs that are coming on my sides tell me I'm a little wiser, to me, I value execution more. I value results more than promises. I am involved in about 30 businesses across multiple geographies. I've built and been a part of 12 companies going public in India, 2 more this year. And if I look at the essence of that journey, intent is a good place to start, but intent can't be valued. In a world of startups, in a world where there's frenzy based on ideas, preposterous projections, I've taken the slower route. I've said, I will put my own capital and my own idea. I will back my idea myself. I will build it into action. I will roadmap it with projections based on results already delivered. And then go knocking at doors and saying, now I know its value. I don't want to be on the valuation treadmill and the cash burning treadmill in any of my companies. I was on the first one I did. So it came from a very bad experience where people give you great valuations and say, you're worth this. And then every quarter they're knocking at your door saying, well, I valued at this, so these are the results you have to deliver, whether it's organically possible in the company or not. The fundamentals of value change the minute you're delivering results. Tangible, measurable, irrefutable results. That's important. I think even the way you want yourself to be perceived is very important. For a brand like TV9 or Vivek Oberoi or any other, post an incident that is out of your control, the minute you embrace the silence, you have time to recalibrate. You have time for the noise to go down. We rush so much into damage control, and our actions emanate out of distress. We haven't had a moment to pause and think. So we don't realize, how do we position ourselves all over again? We're not controlling the narrative anymore. We are just responding. We are reacting to what's coming our way. I think when there's silence, you can change the conversation. I've tried to do that with my wife as a married man. It doesn't work at home. But it does work in business. Today, if I'm being perceived a certain way, and I try to keep shouting on top of that noise, no, that's not who I am. People are not going to listen because the noise is just going to get louder and louder and louder. In a world of YouTube influencers, the noise just grows louder and louder. So the way to recalibrate is, like I said, embrace the silence. Lead the narrative based on what you want people to speak about you. Lead it with facts, figures, proof, numbers, actions, results, so that people can't refute and dispute that. That's the way you can curate your image all over again. And I'm saying this out of experience. I did that. I was leading life with this very strange dichotomy where I felt successful because out of crores of people who try to make it in Bollywood, I was one. I was sitting on accolades, I was sitting on awards, I was sitting on recognition, love, respect, glory. But at the same time, with this very sympathetic tone, I would have interviewers saying, you know, when you first made it in Bollywood, there was so much promise. Do you feel you didn't really achieve all that potential? And it was this concerned, sympathetic way of telling you you're an underachiever. In other words, you failed, you haven't lived up to your potential, and you start to receive all that subconsciously. It is not a positive affirmation because you're telling yourself subconsciously all the time, I could have been. And you're resigning from the driver's seat. You're trying to say, well, it's fait accompli. This happened to me, it's so sad. This incident happened, or this lobby worked against me, or I had bad luck, or whatever it was. You try to focus on that instead, and you're accepting that position. If you drop that and say, I don't have ownership of what is past, I am not driving on a highway with my eyes on the rearview mirror. I care not about the milestones that have passed me. I care about what's coming in the front. How do I want to navigate that? That puts you back in the driver's seat. That lets you lead the narrative about who you are. And don't be in a rush to go out there and tell people, well, I've changed. I'm doing something different now. Let your work speak. Automatically, people will speak about you. People will love to champion that comeback story. People will love to make it dramatic that you're rising from the phoenix, as I see with myself today. Oh, look at the success he's got today. Look where he's reached today. It's been years and years of quiet, hard work, chiseling away at what I decided I want to be. I decided if a door is shut, it's not for me. I will find my success on my own terms, without compromising on my values and principles, in my own way. All I have to do is stop wasting my energy being frustrated with that and focus it into a positive space to say, what is it that I'm looking for? How many times have we asked ourselves that? We don't sit back and look at the 5-year plan or 10-year plan of life. We don't. We don't sit down and ideate on it. We're so busily handling tomorrow. We're so busily juggling today. We're so obsessed with the scars of yesterday that we don't have time to look far at the horizon into the future and say, where do I want to be? Whether it's an organization, it's your personal life, you can sit in the driver's seat, calibrate your own inner compass, and move in the direction you choose. And that is the power we've been blessed with. It's just about discovering it. The power of proof, right? When you build something with credibility from ground up, I was doing real estate with B&W Developments here. I face that every day. I faced it where people said, well, he's an actor, what does he know about development? Forget the track record of the developments I've done in India before, forget the work I've done, the companies I've built, a fintech company, an agri-tech company, an ed-tech company, all successful in their own rights, all of them raising valuations at genuine values on profit multiples, PAT multiples, rather than just crazy burn projections. But people had that. Oh, well, he doesn't know about real estate. The answer would be, well, I've done real estate in India. I've done it quite successfully for more than a decade and a half. Oh, but you don't know anything about real estate in the UAE. So they changed the dimension, they changed the conversation. You waste time arguing with them. Instead, you launch your first project, see it through to success. Launch your second, you launch your third. Today, at B&W Developments, Ankur and I, we built a company where we have 450 employees. We have 24 off-plan projects with a gross development value in Indian rupees of over 55,000 crores, with some of the best equity investors, some of the best funds, some of the best family offices working with us, and we're a zero-debt company. We built it with real value. Today we have distribution in 82 countries of our homes here in the UAE. 17,000 brokers empaneled with us from all over the globe selling our product. So innovating and building, structuring something, persisting with it is what will pay off in value. Today we have large institutions. Today we have the same naysayers coming in and saying, I'd like a piece of your company. Can I invest in the mothership? Can we invest in the holding company? And we're like, we're not diluting. And that's an affirmation. That's the story. That's why I say the second act could be born out of difficulty, could be born out of choice. Before I met Ankur, he ran a reasonably successful brokerage firm. And when he came to me for advice, I said, I really love champions like you. I love founders like you that can work 27 hours in a day. Right? They find that way to make it happen. They hustle, they work hard. He was a CA from a very humble family. And from that point where he didn't have money to pay for his education and fees, he built it to a point where he could afford a house here in Dubai, a nice car for himself, respect, earn money, all by himself. But when we met, the second act began, because what I do is strategy. I sit in the quiet, envision what the bones of a company could be. So I took the company in a direction where I said, we shut down a profitable brokerage company, so there's no conflict of interest, and we go into development. And we build it steady, slow, take a little bit of short-term pain. But today we've created value, otherwise we would have stayed a brokerage firm where value is transient. It's very difficult to build value long-term in a brokerage firm, but in a development company, you can. Today, everybody said, why would a $13 billion listed company like Taj, we're sitting in a Taj venue right now, partner with a new development company like B&W? I said, I will show them why. I will sit with them and explain them in terms of the value. So whether it was grabbing the attention of Puneet Chhatwal, the CEO of Taj globally, connecting with him, using the potential access to explain to him why B&W, why the project makes sense, why trust us, walking them through deep dive due diligence of the organization, making sure everything was in order, working with them on how to create the Wellington Mews product in this market, the first time outside Indian shores. The Wellington Mews arrived in a partnership with B&W. That launch gave us validation here, to a point where out of the 336 units, that were launched that day. 8 o'clock was the launch. By 11 o'clock, we had to stop bookings because we had already sold out a third. And we needed time to breathe and recalibrate. You had 97 units sold out in 3 hours. And it's not a small project. It's a 2.5, 3,000 crore project. So if you're looking at that GDV, you're looking at selling 300, 350 crores of inventory in an hour, the first 3 hours. So that kind of acceptance from a $13 billion listed company with 122 years of heritage then opens doors. And you build it layer by layer. You reach out to people, global funds, global brands, other hospitality brands who now start to look at you. The same brands who said, no, we don't know who you are. You have to establish yourself before you knock at our doors, are now saying, we would like to work with you. You have to get the first one done. And then when you build that proof, your second act begins. And that second act can be a choice, a disruption that you build yourself. And once you've built it and had success, don't stop. Build a second act from that second act too. Constantly disrupt, constantly evolve, because the game is evolution or extinction. That's what the game of life is. That's what nature has taught us over millennia. Today, where are we? We're adopting all kinds of new technology. So whether it's AI coming into every single department, we want to be ahead of the curve. We're working actively with AI companies to create agentic AI for solutions related from sales to governance to regulatory compliance, all the way into design and architecture itself. How do you create a quick, efficient digital twin with your AI models rather than going through a 5D BIM process, which can take you months and months and a lot of expenditure? How do you make it more efficient? Whether you're looking into tokenization. UAE is one of the most progressive countries in the world in terms of tokenization. So how are you getting into tokenization? We're working with some of the best quality tokenization companies in the world, not just looking at tokenization, but actually looking at the L1. How do you create a layer one infrastructure where everything can be tokenized on a blockchain, whether it's a utility token or when the local regulations allow it, a security token? How do you evolve to that? I think that is the second act. For me, in every business I did, when I got into lab-grown diamond jewelry with Solitario, everybody said that, well, you need a lot of money, you need to buy a lot of reactors, you have to control the supply chain. I did my research and I realized that's the wrong way to grow, because that is focusing on the raw material. And the raw material is never valued beyond the value of a commodity. A brand is where you get multiples. So I put my whole focus on the other side of the direction. Everybody was buying reactors, and it had an XY graph, because those who were coming in early were paying more for the capital infrastructure with lesser yield. As the economies of scale kicked in on the capital infrastructure side, the capital goods became cheaper with higher yield. So suddenly you have more raw material, and those guys who I used to beg for terms are now begging me for terms and saying, well, we need customers, we've got all this raw material, how do we convert this into jewelry and sell it? Can you take it on your terms? Tell me the credit window you want, I'm ready to supply it to you. So we focused on design. We set up in Barcelona, Miami, Pune, here in India, global design studios, built our own IP around those designs, built our ownership of a customer base, focused on the brand, lit up the Burj Khalifa with Solitario and launched it in style right here. And today, in 3 years, we're in 9 countries, 25 cities. We just executed a deal with Heresa, which is one of the premium distributors of goods for the last 40 years in Southern Europe. They do big brands like Patek, AP, Rolex, all these kind of designer value brands. They're a €6.5 billion company tying up with our tiny little startup, Solitario. That put us on track to go public this year. Before the end of this year, it will be a listed company. 3 years, soup to nuts, beginning to valuation. Every single investor for the ride is sitting on 3x to 4x to 5x to 6x, depends when they came in that journey, listed liquid. So to me, that's the second act. That's what it represents. You are limitless if you are willing to put in the reps. You are limitless. If you look at pictures of Arnold Schwarzenegger as a teenager, and then you look at pictures of him when he became an adult, you realize that a thin, wiry frame with just determination, grit, and focus can make you Mr. Universe. So you can physically, mentally, spiritually achieve anything. We tend to look at others, rest with them, and say, man, that yogi can walk, up there in the Himalayas, on the ice, barefoot, with just a small little langot covering his body in minus 20 degrees temperature, and nothing happens to him. That's amazing. But you and I are also the same body. We can do that too. We have to put in the reps. We have to decide if that's what we want. Is that what gives us joy? Is that what gives us happiness? Is that what you want to be known as? Is that your legacy? I am constantly working on a second act. Once I'm done with my second act, I start another second act. It keeps moving. That evolution fills me with purpose. That evolution allows me to dictate change. Today, where I am, with the success that I've achieved, I've decided I want to spend a lot more time giving back, more than I've already done before. I'm collaborating now with legends like Kailash Satyarthi to be a part of the global compassion movement, to be a founding member of that movement and take the word of compassion in a world full of wars and conflict further. That's what's giving me purpose. That's what's giving me joy. That's what I choose my legacy to be, because materialistic legacy doesn't give me that joy, that fulfillment, that sense of purpose anymore. I'll end with a quote that I always say. Profit is for a quarter. Purpose is for life. Define your purpose. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Vivek, I'll request you to please join us back here at stage, because I would also like to invite our celebration partner to felicitate with a beautiful hamper, founder and CEO 3 Tech Solutions Private Limited and Sita Vatika, Mr. Aditya Tripathi, and our MD and CEO, Mr. Barun Das. So much. All right, let's move ahead. Coding Tomorrow starts today. An elite lineup of innovators and investors are controlling our digital destiny, and some even argue that our future employment or the lack thereof. Questions like, will AI render us jobless, to who controls the key switch, have often dominated the conversations. Agentic